We should begin this meeting. Thank you, Naomi. Okay, so welcome everybody. So good to see you guys. Wish we were all together in person. We were really hoping to be back at Art Marble. The last time we were there was February of 2020. Naomi, the speaker appears on my screen. Oh, was Virginia. Okay, never mind. Sorry. So in February 2020 was our first time at our new venue, Art Marble 21, which is on Lake Union. And we've stayed in touch with him over this time period, and they are still willing to let us use their private room for events, which is pretty special. It's a beautiful place. And we also realize that some folks, it's hard to come. So we will, on our next meeting, if we do meet there, work on the logistics of doing live streaming. So if you can't make the meeting, you'd be able to see the presentations live. So we're very excited about this evening. We've got 3 nonprofits that have very different services that they provide to our communities. So we're looking forward to hearing about them. And before I go over the agenda, just want to say a few more notes that our membership, has kind of gone up and down over this past year with the pandemic and everything, but we have maintained 112 members, which I just think is fabulous. It does mean that the nonprofits selected for the evening will receive $10,000, and then the 2 other nonprofits, the runner-ups, will each receive $600, possibly a little more, but with 112 members, that's our donation we're able to give to all 3. And another note is that we have lost a member of our core team. She moved, got a job in Illinois, and we still would like to add 1 more person to our core team to help us plan the events and manage all the activities of this group. And we'll let you know more via email on what that involves. We don't meet that often, maybe 6 times a year, but we would really love to have participation from another member to join our core team. And I think, Naomi, I don't know if you can put up the agenda. We'll go through the agenda. So following this introduction, the nonprofits will present. They each get 8 minutes. And Naomi will be timing them. And then there's 4 minutes of follow-on with Q&A. So during the presentation and after the presentation, please use the chat feature and put your questions in, and then Naomi will go through the questions, and the nonprofits will provide their answers. Following the 3 presentations, Naomi will lead a group discussion. It's really open for everybody to speak, so you can unmute. And then Susan will select 3 numbers out of the hat to select our next nonprofits for the February, gosh, I can't believe it's going to be 2022 meeting. So it's a random selection. We have bingo balls that we use, and we have, I don't know, something like 60 nonprofits, and Susan will pick 3 for the next event, and then we'll have some closing remarks. Communities of Rooted Brilliance, we have Mona Tihan speaking. She's the executive director, And Mona, if you would like to share your desktop, if there's a presentation, and you can begin.
Thank you so much, Paula. Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you. Thank you for doing this in late evening for everyone to accommodate everyone, and I appreciate it. My name is Mona Han. I founded the Coalition for Refugees from Burma 12 years ago, and we recently rebranded to Communities Rooted Brilliance. Part of the reason is we've been serving people. We founded the organization to serve primarily refugees from Burma arriving in 2006 and formed the organization in 2009. And since 2010 or 11, other newcomer communities have started arriving, but I was just so busy that I didn't get to do anything about the organization name until a couple of years ago. We went through a year of strategic planning for the next leg of CRB. And we kept the acronym CRB because that's what we're known for as our acronym. And so, but the branding consultant worked with us and came up with this name, which we love, and the new logo and everything. So again, it was founded in 2009 as a community-based nonprofit organization. As you can see from our earlier photos, they're like mostly refugees from Burma, children and families, usually in our early learning program and our youth and leadership development programs. So what we do is we serve refugee and immigrant communities in King County. Since we started, I was focusing on building, bridging gaps in services experienced by these communities. And we base our programs on education because we feel that that's the fastest way to get a community uplifted to not just survive, but thrive in their new homes. And our goals are to increase system navigation knowledge because a lot of newcomers have no idea how to navigate systems, and grow advocacy skills so they can self-advocate and support systems change. And I can get into systems change a little bit later. But our philosophy has always been families are our partners in our work. That means our programs have evolved in the last 12 years based on the changes of the community needs. Just because a program is successful, we don't keep on doing that. Our goal is like, how do we make sure that these folks don't need us anymore in these areas? So we're constantly reassessing the way we do work and try and build capacity of the communities that we're working with. And then we believe that dedicated leadership is already existing within every newcomer community, and we partner with these leaders to provide culturally responsive services. Because who better than a mother who speaks, Sudanese Arabic, who knows that women from their community, the nursery rhymes of their culture and their language and community, and how kids learn to say words and read and write and be ready for school. We are constantly adapting our curricula to meet those needs, and it's actually their work. We are just lucky to partner with them to that they trust us enough to partner with us to work so we can be most effective in delivering services. So this is our team. It's pretty diverse. We're about 14 to 16 member organization. So it's still pretty small. This is one of our pandemic staff meetings where everyone's on Zoom, and we've been pivoting and working virtually in the last year and a half. Who do we serve? This is our demographics, and I may have missed a few numbers because recently arrived refugees from Afghanistan will definitely change the number of other Asian box. Percentage is a lot higher right now. We just don't have the up-to-date numbers yet. So they're Black or African American, Hispanic, Latino, others, Spanish, those who speak Spanish language. Some identify as multiracial, Middle Eastern or North African. Other Asian is like mostly Afghanis and Iraqis, and other Black African American or African from Somalia, Congo, and other places. And some identify as white. So these are actually the ethnicities that they pick themselves. We don't tell them. We just give them like, how do you identify? And that's how we get the data. So our theory of change is like, somebody comes bleeding, we put the Band-Aid on and stop the bleeding, of course. But the direct service or targeted intervention is just the first way to get them to the next level, build their capacity so they don't bleed anymore. And then, an advocacy down the line that they tell us what kind of services that they would need or how we should adapt our program delivery to really make it fit for their needs. So that's kind of like the direction that we work with all our programs. And so to give an example, like for one of our early learning navigator programs, emergency response, especially with the pandemic, a lot of them come for rental and utility assistance, or we either do our assistance if we have funds, or we do referrals to all those who are providing assistance. And from the spectrum of like currently very vulnerable, meaning they can lose their home or they are identified as homeless, all the way to stable. It's like you provide basic needs like stable housing, find employment and other needs, and increase their stability to develop long-term goals for education or employment. So we work with them to learn system navigation. If a little bit of what they need is just computer skills, and we find people to teach them so they get the next level up in their jobs. And then we, try to get as much as possible, as much time as they have on systemic barriers and knowledge of civic engagement. So the more people are building advocacy chops, the better it is for them to self-advocate, so that we always work towards system change.
Mona,
we also
we've hit our time, our 8 minutes, I'm sorry. So we have the 4 minutes for questions, and if we don't receive more questions, then we'll let you continue with that last bit of time. Let me start the 4-minute timer. And I have a question that we got in the chat from Roth that says, Mona, I'm wondering with all that's going on in Myanmar and Burma, at what rate people are able to immigrate to the United States in the past year, or specifically to the Seattle area?
Yeah, so a lot of refugees camps around the Thai-Burma borders have closed. I think 2-3 years ago, there are still refugees there, but the recent political turmoil in the last year, I think starting in February with the military coup, the country is currently cut off with the rest of the world. So there are no new refugees or political asylees arriving based for this turmoil.
Okay.
The people that we work with are from those who have been resettled previously.
Okay, thank you. We also have a question from Karen. Where are you located, and how do people who need your services find out about you?
So we have 2 offices, one in the International District and one in Kent. We have a website and social media presence, and We also list in our partners' sites as like King County service providers as to the kinds of services that we provide.
Thank you. Okay, we still have a little more than 2 minutes of time, so I'll keep an eye for questions, but please continue your presentation.
Okay. So
the questions are coming. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
People knew the time was running out. Sandy would like to know, since there are hundreds of immigrants entering the United States, how do you determine who you serve?
Yeah, so it's all based on the community leadership. And we have a network of leaders who know about our work, and they come to us with the needs that they have. And we're also pretty connected to South King County associations. So there are different convenings that are happening, so where we can go and advertise, and people are aware of the work that we're doing.
Great. Tammy would like to know, is your staff paid or volunteer?
All our staff are paid, and we have 14 full-time and 6 part-time staff.
Okay. And go ahead, 1 more minute.
Yeah, so then I can just talk about the Refuge and Immigrant Youth Advisory Council, which is like how we're hoping that we can use these funds. This is a leadership program where we train the 16 to 24-year-old youth of color living in South King County on a variety of topics such as community organizing, civic engagement. And then they have a culminating panel, and they become Refugee and Immigrant Youth Advisory Council members, and each council member is a 2-year term, and we provide stipends to them for their participation, and they bring community-based projects of emerging issues that are happening in their communities. And we provide the infrastructure like building bylaws and subcommittees and how like consensus decision making. And so we just provide funding and infrastructure support, and they are the ones actually deciding on the types of projects to choose.
Okay, thank you, Mona. That's our time. I'm sorry. It's always hardest to go first.
Thank you.
So next we have AJ from Global to Local. Give me just a second to find him so I can spotlight him for you all. There he is. Okay. AJ, let's unmute you. There you go. All right, so I'm going to start the 8 minutes, and you saw what I had to do to Mona, so I will let you know when you get to time.
Yeah, and I'm going to share my screen here.
All right.
Where's the, do you have to give me permission, or?
You should have it. Everybody should be able to.
I'm not seeing it here.
Let's check again. Where?
In the bottom, there should be a share screen
Yeah, I'm not.
icon along with the chat and the participants.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I wasn't I had my.
All right, let's restart the timer.
Oh, I didn't start yet. Okay, here we go.
All right. And you guys see this PowerPoint here?
Yes, we see your notes too, but yes.
I'm gonna.
Or your sidebar.
There we go. So you just see the one screen here. Yeah. So hi, good evening. Thanks for having me this evening and inviting us to this meeting. So my name is AJ McClure. I'm the executive director of Global to Local. Just a quick background of Global to Local. We've been around for about 11 years. We're based in SeaTac, Washington. We are a community-based health organization serving primarily immigrants and refugees in South King County. Our program delivery is focused in SeaTac and Tukwila, but we serve clients all around South King. And today I'm just gonna provide some background and some information on a specific program that we run. We were contacted specifically about this program. It's called the Food Innovation Network, and it's a program of global to local, but it does operate independently in terms of a community steering board and our staff as well. And so Finn started out as a project to address food insecurity in South King County, particularly in SeaTac and Tukwila, based on a lot of data looking at health disparities across the county. And as we did outreach and as we worked with the community about what types of issues around food insecurity would most address their needs, we found out that a lot of people, immigrants and refugees particularly, were interested in having food businesses. In fact, some of them were actually doing it out of their house without permits. And so John B. Gashuru, who's one of our lead staff doing community engagement work, started running into a lot of these folks, and they were predominantly women, immigrant and refugee women. And so out of that, after a lot of meetings and conversations, we came up with this idea about starting a business incubator specifically for immigrants and refugee food businesses. And because we found out that there was a lot of barriers in terms of a lot of those businesses wanting to start out due to cost, due to access to services, resources, obviously capital. And this was about 2013. And so we started out recruiting and pulling together certain partners that could provide culturally appropriate business support services. We, in turn, would do a lot of facilitation in terms of getting them permitted, their business permits, their food handling permits. And through that work, we were learning about a lot of the barriers and the system change needs that had to occur to allow access for these women to start their businesses. Obviously, a big need in our area, particularly in South King County, is access to a commercial kitchen. And so through, after renting out various kitchens in South King County, we had a grand vision of building our own community kitchen that would house our incubator. And over the last couple of years, we've been hard at work, securing funding, talking to different partners, doing building design, getting input from industry experts, and then also bringing in those businesses to help design what this space looks like. So fast forward a couple more years, in 2019, we were able to secure enough funding to break ground and start construction of our food hall, which we named Spice, or which the business is named Spice Bridge. Currently, we have 15 or 13 businesses in the incubator, 8 of them of which actually have a kiosk at Spice Bridge. How that operates is we have 8 businesses operating out of 4 kiosks. They rotate days, different days of the week. The only day we're closed is Monday. And then the other 5 businesses use the kitchen to do catering jobs, do private jobs, and also a couple of them sell spices online or do some businesses online. So we have one business that's been with our program for a couple of years now. She's actually in PCC market. She sells on Amazon. She's actually on the verge of graduating out of our program. We have another business, and I'm sorry, I'm talking really fast here because I know we're on time. But another business of ours is C Tango here. Monica, she actually she graduated, and her husband opened up a bakery, Argentinian bakery in Lake City back in July. So she actually still uses our kitchen. She's still in the program getting business support, but she actually has her own physical space. And so we've actually moved in another business into that spot. So we have constantly 8 businesses rotating through. And just to give you a sense of how it works is we go out and either they solicit, they come to us now. We've had 2 orientations over the last 14 months with a total of over 50 businesses. Again, these are all immigrant, refugee, aspiring business owners, all from South King County looking to start their business. They come in, we provide the coaching and the support of part of their cohort. And then we help them develop their menus, get their licenses and permits. We give them access to kitchens, the kitchen space, and then we help with their sales. But these are all independently permitted, all independently run. The hope is that they're in our program for 2 to 3 years, and then they cycle out, and we're literally in our 3rd year. With the program, we just had our 1st year anniversary last Wednesday for Spice Bridge. We opened in September of 2020, yes, in the middle of a global pandemic, and happy to say that all 13 businesses that started in the program are still there, still thriving. It's been tough for sure, but we had a great turnout. We had over 350 people show up. It was a great sale day for our businesses, and a great way to celebrate the work that they've been doing. And what we're hoping to do out of this interaction tonight is we are about $23,000 shy of closing our capital campaign for the development of the space. Here's the beautiful kitchen that the businesses get access to. We're about 3% short of our goal. We're trying to close it out by the end of the month. But we've been open for a year now, and we've had interest to move. Actually, some of our businesses are starting up again at Pike Place. So we have a kiosk there that next month they'll be starting to rotate through 2-3 businesses. We started it in 2019. It got shut down during the pandemic. We've been able to open that back up. We've been in conversation with Seattle Art Museum about a space there, Westfield Mall. We've done jobs for Amazon, and I looked at Microsoft has expressed interest about having us come out and do catered or box lunches or at their food court there on campus. Although we're working remotely, we're not sure how that's going to pan out. But it's been a huge success.
AJ, that's time. Thank you. We have a few questions coming in. The first one is from Kim. She wants to know how many of your businesses graduated from your incubator?
So far, we've had 2. We've been, the program's been up and running for 3 years now, and we've been in this space for a year.
Great. Karen asks, I read about this wonderful program when the Spice Kitchen started. I'm wondering how COVID has affected those businesses and whether they're still able to conduct their business out during the pandemic.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's been tough. Yes, like I said, they've all been able to weather the pandemic. Like many restaurant businesses, it's been a challenge. In fact, what we've been able to do over the last year is we've been able to secure grant funding to pay the businesses for food meal delivery for people in need. So actually, it was their idea 2 months into the pandemic, or a month into the pandemic. All their catering businesses dried up, right? And so they said, well, how about there's a lot of people that need food right now, they're out of work. Why don't we cook them? And we had stock, right? And so they said, why don't we had kitchen time reserved. We weren't in Spice Bridge yet. And they said, well, why don't we cook meals for people in need? And so we were able to secure funding to pay them for their time and their food. And over March through mid-June, they delivered over 8,700 hot meals to the community.
That's great. Thanks.
So that's been able to supplement some of their income, and then the summer hit, and they've been able to do some business since then. We subsidize their rent. So they pay rent below market rate. So they pay rent to us, but we give them coaching, and we also have been subsidizing it through COVID.
Thank you. Melissa is asking, are there requirements for individuals to become a part of the program, and how do you select these individuals?
Yes, so we work with 2 primary partners, Venture and Business Impact Northwest, that provide direct business coaching expertise. And so, yes, there's a requirements in terms of having a business plan. I mean, it's somewhat similar to how you would go for a business loan, right? But they're not paying for us to be in the program, but they have to develop, a business plan. They have to have some form of a menu of ideas, concepts around menus. They don't have to be in business, but they have to have certain things to do. And they also commit to 12 hours of business coaching per month. So to stay in the program, they have to work with their business coach throughout the month to work on everything from budgeting to marketing to menu development to resources, like, you know, sourcing food, all those things about how you run a food business. And so the only thing that we subsidize is the rent, and we subsidize their food permits through public health, because those are expensive. Those are annual.
Okay. Tracy asks, do you have more businesses in your pipeline, and do you want to expand beyond 13?
Yes, we do. And like I mentioned earlier, we've had 2 orientations over the last year and a half. We've had over 50 businesses express interest. I would say probably half of those realistically would meet the criteria to come in and be ready and be able to commit to the program. But yeah, our capacity is limited. We have, this kitchen is only, our space is only about 2,800 square feet. That's not all kitchen space. So we do have limitations, and that's why we've looked at Pike Place, and we've looked at other potential areas like the Seattle Art Museum as potential satellite kitchens and retail space that we could potentially have grow the program. But again, we've had a lot of great interest over the last year, but we are into this. So we're just trying to get our legs, and the business is trying to get their legs under them.
Thank you so much. That's our time.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to add Lisa and, hold on 1 second. Spotlight. I also need to find Lauren. There she is. Okay. So Lisa and Lauren, I'm going to start your 8 minutes now.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Can folks see that?
That did not work. Try again.
Okay, let me try that again. Okay, share. You see
There
it
we go.
now?
Yes,
Okay.
so we see it from the slide views with the sidebar.
Go into presentation mode.
Right.
Okay, so I'll hand it over to Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Burkel. I'm the head of our marketing and sales teams at the Museum of Pop Culture, otherwise known as MoPop. And my favorite pop culture is literature with a specificity around science fiction dystopian novels.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa. I apologize. There's a full family of noise outside, so you might hear some small children screaming. I am the grant manager here, and I love Jim Henson for my pop culture.
Thanks. So we want to start with just a little bit of background of the museum and go over our purpose in the community. And really, if you think about it, in this increasingly fragmented world that we live in, pop culture really is a universal language through which we build connections. And at MoPop, we create opportunities for people from every background to explore, find their community, and recognize their own creative potential. Lisa, you might be muted, my dear, or you are.
No, I was absolutely muted. We opened our doors in 2000, which some folks might remember. And in that time, since we've opened, we've reached 11 million people across 6 continents. Thanks to unwavering support from our donors, our members, our volunteers. Together, we really aim to harness the power and the potential of pop culture in order to preserve pop culture history for future generations, create community with our programs, and motivate future creators to innovate and inspire through their own ideas.
So we achieve our mission through 4 important pillars. And for many complicated social and political reasons, there can be a tendency to denigrate the importance of pop culture. It might not be seen as something really important to cherish. But because of this, though, our museum collections and institutions in charge of preserving and telling the story of our world have not always wanted to collect objects and ephemera that tell these important stories. And so MoPop's decided to be a little different. And so in the 1990s, when the museum was beginning to take shape, we were one of the first museums who were actually taking history of hip hop seriously. And because of that, we've been able to collect and preserve many of the posters, artifacts, and musical instruments from this universally impactful genre. We're currently working on having these 1,200 artifacts available for everyone to study in our first ever online collections exhibitions that is going to have a soft launch this year. It's also important to note that since our founding, MoPop has launched more than 100 exhibitions on topics including music, video games, film, television, and fashion, something for everyone. But that's sort of just the tip of the iceberg. Less than 1% of our permanent collection of more than 100,000 artifacts is on display at the museum at any given time. And again, we're really excited to start to bring those more to the public-facing world through the online portal. For a little more context about our permanent collection, we focus on the pop culture of the 20th and 21st centuries. These unique objects are often made of materials that aren't really meant to survive over decades, which does present us with a unique challenge in the care and conservation of these treasures. And so to help mitigate these challenges, our supporters do help our expert collections team care for these artifacts that help bring us vital pop culture stories that have shaped and influenced our society to current and future generations.
As Lauren mentioned, we've had over 100 exhibitions, and many of these tell the story of the Pacific Northwest to the world. We've toured our Jimi Hendrix shows and our Nirvana shows to China, to Brazil, to Europe, really telling the importance of our area and our impact on a global world to a global audience. In 2000, we started just focusing on music, but have expanded in order to reach the wider world of pop culture, producing exhibitions on the culture that is impacting individuals right now. We are incredibly proud to be an intergenerational museum, as you hear children screaming, where a grandchild can enthusiastically bring his grandmother to show them the world of Minecraft, where the child is the expert and is showing the grandparent around. And in that same visit, you can have a grandparent take the grandchild to a Jimi Hendrix exhibition and show them the importance of that music on their life. And we have some of the youngest audiences for a museum in the country, according to the American Association of Museums.
And so we're more than just exhibits. Most like other museums, you know, we're proud to host dozens of educational opportunities for local youth, as Lisa kind of mentioned. And pop culture does more than entertain and inform. And so when thoughtfully examined, these genres of movies and television, games, music, they can really help people see themselves as creative individuals and see themselves in the work they're studying and admiring. And it also provides them accessible points of entry to complex ideas of their own. How are they digesting Squid Games, what are all the cultural subtexts within one of the most, watched TV shows right now? And so each year, MoPop works with thousands of students of all ages to really harness their own creativity through these educational opportunities, through our exhibits, and through our community outreach programs. We do know that change makers and culture shapers have always kind of marched to a different beat, and MoPop helps young people find their individual paths, especially those without access to opportunities. Some of our educational activities do vary, from a dragtastic summer camp, one of our most popular new summer camps we launched this past summer, Minecraft after school groups, creating comic book characters from homeschool students, to learning math with our school museum kit, which is the Journey to the Cave of Burkel. Supporters have helped 150,000 youth access these activities. To further highlight the impact our supporters make, I just wanted to share a quote from a participant of one of our signature programs, which is Sound Off. It's a 21 and under music program. And so this participant wrote, "I just wanted to say thank you for all the work you and your whole team put into Sound Off. It was such an amazing experience performing on the Sky Church stage, but I had no idea how much more incredible the experience of meeting everyone involved was going to be. I've honestly never experienced anything like this before, and I feel like I grew so much as an artist and as a performer throughout this whole process. I could tell how genuinely invested you all were in all of us, and it really made all the difference in the world. Thank you so much for the opportunities you've given us, and most importantly, for so genuinely believing in us."
Different from a lot of cultural institutions that are specific to one art form or genre, MoPop is unique that we latch onto the power of pop culture itself and use that to create community in an increasingly divisive world. For example, you can find a Star Trek fan in every demographic on every continent on this entire planet. And when we host events around that, we really bring in many different communities to share that passion. Pop culture is sometimes viewed as escapism, and it absolutely provides that, especially during the pandemic. But we wouldn't exist and our importance wouldn't be great if it was just about escapism. The power that pop culture has to inspire and connect is its special sauce. It taps into what excites us and what unites us. It's what we want to share with our family and our friends, and it helps us make sense of the world. We're able to tap into that with our programs to create community and events that bring our city, our county, our region together. From our annual holiday party, Doctor Who Days, which if you ever want to see a 5-year-old dressed as a Doctor Who, this is the place to go. It's adorable. To horror movie watch-alongs, hip hop museum takeovers, to online book groups. Our programs and activities bring groups of people together and have them bond over shared passions. And in today's climate, this is an important role we don't take lightly.
Thank you, Lisa. Has anyone ever told you you have a voice for KEXP radio commercials?
I would agree with that.
Yep. All right, let me put 4 minutes on the chat timer for the questions. So the first question we have is from Kim. She would like to know, would it be possible or what would it take for you to get an additional $10,000 from Paul Allen's estate to fund this program?
That's a really good question. And it's something that we get a lot. And as the grant writer, I have access to all of the financials of the organization. And a lot of people assume that we're funded by the Allen family. And I can tell you the single largest individual donor for the last couple of years running, the last name was not Allen, and it was only 1% of our overall budget. So we run into sometimes problems where we're trying to fund for these programs, we're trying to fund from the education, and people will make the assumption that we're funded by the Allen family. And I mean, anyone can look into our 990 and take a look at our financials, and we're an independent nonprofit that's been self-sustaining for years.
That leads well into Priscilla's question, which is what percentage of MoPop's budget comes from ticket sales versus donations?
This year is weird because of the pandemic and because we were shut. So I'll answer that using 2019, if that's okay, because if you looked at 2020 or 2021, it's going to be lopsided, but it's about 83% on-site revenue. That being said, about 73% of all tickets that we sell are discounted. And we have lots of different free access. We give tens of thousands of free tickets out every year, but we are about 83% based on on-site revenue.
Great. Priscilla also asked, you mentioned the free tickets, but do you also provide free community events?
We absolutely do. So we have a program called Community Access Partners. Mona, this is your organization would be perfect. We pair with organizations that work with refugees and immigrants, and basically it's complete free tickets. You have free entry to every single program. And we work with dozens of community partners to go ahead and provide, free tickets. Our Through the Eyes of Art program in February, which is our annual celebration of Black excellence, is about 80% free tickets. It's mostly free for community members to come. Our programs are heavily subsidized for folks to come in. Any Title I school gets free access.
And I'll also add that we have a pay what you can model for our public programming. So in addition, if you aren't actually part of a nonprofit organization yourself, we still create access with a $0 opportunity to still participate, because accessibility truly is important to us.
That's great. And Priscilla had also asked about educational opportunities specifically for school groups. Does that fit still into the model you're talking about?
Yeah, so Title I schools never have free payment for the museum kits, for online workshops, we actually do bus transportation stipends as well, because we know that just getting to the museum can be a barrier for schools. So we give out $250 bus stipends. Yeah, and we have sensory friendly mornings, which are completely free. And that's where anyone who could do with neurodiversity, who needs a lower level, we partnered with an outside group that took the entire museum and figured out ways in which to be welcoming to groups that would need that. And there's no charge to that. And those always are full.
That's great. Mona just sent me a message. I think she meant for the group, but she said she'll hit you up for the next summer field trip. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah.
Love that connection. You guys have 10 seconds left.
Thank you. Good questions.
Can I read a quote in the 10 seconds or my 10
Yep.
seconds? Probably,
Go
yeah.
for it.
Okay. I love this quote. It's for, oh no, it just beeped.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is from one of our horror movie watch-alongs during the pandemic. We really found, because we like to say that we like to create community with universal content. And this is just a lovely quote about that. She said, "To be honest, the isolation left me in a rough shape emotionally and mentally. Watching the movie with a group of horror nerds was so fun. It became the thing I looked forward to. MoPop and your programs helped me get through the past few months. And I don't say that lightly."
That's great. All right, I'm adding Mona and AJ to our spotlight, and we are early because everyone stayed on time. So thank you for that and for bearing with my interruptions. We have about, let's say, 8 minutes for group dialogue. So anyone who is part of our giving circle and wants to unmute yourself and chat with any of our presenters, please go ahead. I don't need to read out your questions. You're capable of speaking on your own. Paula, something you want to say?
I'm thinking.
So I have a question for AJ.
Yes.
Do you partner with any of the food banks in the area? You know, Rainier Beach Farms or the Rainier Valley Food Bank? Those are the two I'm familiar with in my neighborhood. So
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. So the South King County Food Coalition is part of our steering committee, and they serve all the South County food banks. So Tukwila, Des Moines, Renton, and they also run a elk run farm out in Maple Valley. And then there's also a horseneck farm that some of our farmers. So we also run a farmer's market every Wednesday during the spring summer season. So actually our last market was yesterday, or wait, today. Today's Wednesday. And so we work with local farmers, mostly again in South King County, immigrant and refugee farmers it's a small farmers market. It's in the plaza there in Tukwila Village. And so, yes, we work. And so what we do is we work with them in terms of sourcing food, and then whatever local produce isn't sold at those markets then are donated to the South King County Food Coalition that then distributes them to the food banks. We also worked with the food banks during COVID to deliver the hot meals that I talked about earlier.
I have a question for Mona. Mona, this is Paula. So when refugees come to you, are they already settled in an apartment or someplace, or are they just all over the board as far as where they're at when they come to your organization?
Yeah, so when all the refugees that arrive and are resettled in this country, they are served by 5 main resettlement agencies like World Relief, International Rescue Committee, and others. And they are put they are picked up from the airport, and then they're placed in an apartment. They can find an apartment and provided basic needs, and do a walkthrough. And then they go through public health screening, enrolling kids if they're family, enrolling kids in schools, and then enrolling them in either language classes or job training classes based on their prior experience or interests. So after 90 days of the initial resettlement, what the resettlement agencies are chartered to support is usually when the service gaps happen, because imagine, someone who's not speaking the language and have no idea where they are, just plop somewhere in South King County and have to figure out transportation and job and going to the work. So that's where we pick up the pieces, like kids serving the youth and in partnership with Kent School District and for after school programming, helping the families with home visits for early learning. So they find some are referred to us from the resettlement agencies that, after 90 days, they're moving on to new refugees who are arriving, but some are through just word of mouth from the communities who know that we have programs, and some in partnership with the schools is where the school refers to us, the students that need additional help.
Thank you.
Sure.
Karen, I see you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
No, sorry.
No,
Didn't mean
that's
to unmute. My question got asked already for AJ, so thanks.
Yeah. All right. If anyone else has a question, please pipe up, but otherwise we can thank our speakers and move into picking our next nonprofits from the bingo ball. You guys are welcome to.
You guys are welcome to stay until the end. So we're not saying goodbye yet.
I have 3 children banging on the door, so I might have to run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you,
I think
Lisa.
mine just got home, so thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will turn it over to Susan,
In the silly hat.
who's got the hat and the bingo balls.
Hi, everyone. And did you realize that we have a total of 57 nominating nonprofit organizations that we have nominated through our membership program? Well, we do. And 20 of the 30, we have either nominated them for one of our meetings or they have been selected for one of our meetings. So that leaves 37 magic bingo balls in the cowboy hat that you need to check out for. Pick 3 balls and correlate to see who's going to be our next meeting guests. And the first one is number 17, which is an error on my part. Sorry. The first one, didn't you know it? Is number.
Wanted to know what nonprofit was named an error on my part and what they possibly could do.
Of course, it's me. I have to do one thing wrong, at least one. So I guess a second for this. Anyway, the number I chose was 49, which is Empowering Youth and Families Outreach. The second is Outdoors for All, nominated by Carol Coram. And the third is the Kirkland Arts Center by Tammy Sitnick. Thank you very much. Those will be sent to you later on this month.
Thank you, Susan. So to wrap up this meeting, I just want to say again, thank you to the nonprofits for taking the time and presenting to us so we can learn more about their organizations. As far as selecting who receives our major donation, voting will be online. So in a couple of days, we will send out an email with a voting ballot. And so look for your email for voting. And next year, hopefully in February, we'll be able to meet in person. We can't predict, but we're going to be optimistic about doing that again. It was just so fun to do things in person and connect. So with that, I'm going to sign off and thank you all for attending. And we'll see you again in February. Bye.